add highlights in the street and everything to that signage, and then, you know, tell the public that these signs really mean business now. If the problem is, you know, too many deer, you know, but they're in you know, hiding in people's garages or in shrubs right by the house, then that might be a situation that would be great for contraception, you know, a dart and mark contraception using PZP, which is a protein, or it might be an ideal opportunity for nuisance hunting. It just depends, and you know, everyone will get together and discuss this and see what the residents want as well, and then that it would just keep going like that.
All right,
forever.
So let me just talk to you just a little bit about that. You mentioned some of the components of the plan. Have you memorialized any of those aspects? Are they available for viewing on the website or anything towards that end at this point, or is that in development?
Not quite yet. We're developing a website. You know, we're going to become a nonprofit because a lot of the attraction for this program to the towns is that so much of the labor will be free because it'll be done by the local hunter that is assigned that area.
So this is really a program that the hunters are involved with at the forefront.
Absolutely.
Right.
They're doing the heavy lifting.
Right.
You know, but I think it'll be very, very rewarding for them. You know, when the situation calls for it, they'll be able to have the deer, you know, that they take. And I just think it'll work out really, really well for everyone. And
now one of the components of the plan that you had mentioned was the anti-fertilization inoculations, and you know, I'm going to tell you at first glance, you know, as a hunter, no way. This was, you know, anathema to me, but I'm going to tell you now, we'll come back to it, that my thinking has kind of evolved on this issue a little bit. That being said, I'm always an advocate for hunting to be the primary tool,
right.
But there's certain realities that I've come to recognize. One of those realities is that there is in fact a deer overpopulation in certain areas of eastern Long Island. That's the first reality. The second reality is that the animal rights groups and advocates I know are groups of advocacy population that aren't going away. I know that. And I know the hunting community isn't going away. So I look at it though and I say to myself, well, if there's a possibility where these two spectrums, you know, these two polar opposites, for lack of a better term, can come together in unison, that's going to be a way to possibly forge legislative change, because we're going to have the legislative muscle at that point, which we never had before. You know, these two groups coming together. So, you know, if there is in fact a plan that can utilize the hunter and implement these type of other strategies other than culling, such as fertilization, I'm open to, at this point, hearing those aspects and incorporating those types of things where they're appropriate. Now, I know you're not a scientist, but I know you've researched this a little bit about. So tell me a little bit about the actual fertilization, because I know I needed to get educated about it. I know the community needs to get educated about it. Can you allay some of the obvious fears that people have, you know, about?
Yeah, well, the first thing is they think it taints the meat and that it gets into the deer system. But it's a protein from pig ovaries. And for some reason it causes basically an allergic reaction in the doe that makes antibodies attack her egg when it drops.
Okay.
And then it covers the egg so that it's impermeable to sperm. Period.
Okay.
And it will do that every time she drops an egg or ovulates, I shouldn't say drop an egg, so it's like I'm talking about a chicken. But it will do that for 2 years if you dart her once and then run. We call it dart and mark because at the same time, and you guys will be doing the darting, hopefully.
Right.
at the same time that you hit the deer in the rump, a tube breaks and spreads an indelible dye on her butt for identification. That's another reason it's so great to have these deer managers, because they will be then able to track these particular does. And so one darting gives you 2 years of infertility. You know, it's a protein. It gets absorbed right into the body. It doesn't, you know, stay around. It just gets metabolized immediately. But it causes this reaction in the doe, and it lasts about 2 years.
Okay, because I know that
And
was
she
one of the
goes through
fears.
she goes through estrus and everything, and then, you know, she has the estrus ends at the normal time. It doesn't just like keep going. It
Right.
just, you know, she has a certain amount of eggs, just like us, and then it stops, and the bucks, you know, just would go through their normal mating ritual, and there's really no difference in their behavior at all. None has been documented, and they've been doing this on wild horses for 2 or 3 decades out west.
And I know there was a pilot program upstate.
Hastings on Hudson
Hastings
right
on
now
Hudson,
is
right.
going on
That's
as we
right.
spoke. In fact, I spoke to Dr. Rutberg today. He's with Tufts University. He's been doing this for many, many years. He's done many trials, and he's actually the one that would come down. He's probably coming down in April. We're trying to get him to talk to the Supervisors and Mayors Association, and get all the towns.
Any idea of the cost?
It's really cheap, you know.
Or maybe this is some
So
of,
many
this is some
people-
of the appropriate grant money that they should be giving us to maybe
Oh,
do
there's no
programs like this,
question.
as opposed to the cup.
There's no question. It's a lot less expensive if we have the hunters volunteer to dart and mark. If you have to, you know, pay someone to, you know, dart them, that's more. Sometimes it's expensive if you're in a program through the DEC where they insist that you tag the deer, you know. Then that can be expensive because you've got to dart, tranquilize, then tag them, and then reverse the tranquilizer and release them. But even that could be done, you know, by volunteer wildlife rehabilitators. Like, I would have no problem doing that. If you were able to shoot the deer, I could take care of everything else.
Right. All right. So let me just put.
Let me just.
Sure. Sure.
The actual immunocontraception, the actual injection is about $64, and that's the only cost.
$64.
Yeah, per
Okay.
deer,
But
and you get 2 years, no babies.
that presuming that we're decent shots.
You better be.
You got that right. You got that right. Well, that doesn't sound too bad. All right. So I just want to put, you know, this in context a little bit here. So obviously, you know, the hunting advocacy groups and your coalition coming together really is essentially an historic alliance between groups, and it's exciting because of what that combination of people can do together.
Yes.
Obviously, the elephant in the room is, from my perspective, and I know from a lot of hunters' perspectives, is that that your coalition, and I'll ask you right out, is it a coalition that recognizes the you know, the unalienable rights of hunters and the tradition of hunting?
Oh yes,
and,
absolutely.
And the fact that hunting is a you know, a viable deer management tool, and really you know, should always be preserved.
Absolutely. It can't work without you. And hunting is the most natural way to manage wildlife in the absence of any predators. So you guys are it. You're the last remaining predators. You know, as long as it's managed well, I don't have any problem with it at all. And I think it's critical, and it will get even more critical as time goes on and we start forcing wildlife into these small areas.
Right.
And, you know, this kind of calling by the USDA is sickening. I don't like the federal government coming into our state. I don't like them coming in and taking our deer. I don't like the way they're doing it. I hate everything about it. And, you know, I think our local hunters should do this work, and that the laws should be relaxed to, you know, safe, but to logical degrees, so that you guys can do your job right.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you, and just, again, putting it in context a little bit. This is something, the inoculations, that are hopefully will be done in conjunction with a lot of the other initiatives that we've been petitioning for. And these are things that the coalition supports: the reduced yardage setbacks, possible increased seasons, crossbows, those type of things to kind of augment the role of hunting. And these are all things that the coalition actually works with. Or
Totally supports, as long as it's safe. And I would just, the only thing I would say from just my point of view was that I would want to make sure that you guys insisted on, you know, a good educational structure, you know, to go along with hunting and loosening these rules.
Right.
Just to make sure that you know, you don't get people out there taking advantage of the rules or that aren't really very good at what they do. You know, if there were more oversight, I think that would be good.
Yeah,
you know, because these are
so.
dangerous weapons,
and I think that, you know, part of what's happening now that hunters communicate to a tighter degree now because of the social media. You know, ethical hunting and the ethos of ethical hunting is something that's been now being promoted a lot more and advocated a lot more. And you see,
I think that's really good.
You see that it's kind of like self-policing within the hunting community,
and I think
it's something I've been appreciative of seeing, you know, develop and get cultivated. So. And
it's a great thing to teach your kids, you know, because it's good values to respect the animal.
Absolutely.
And do everything right and correctly and carefully. That's all really good.
Right. All right. So just before we conclude your interview, give me the nuts and bolts of where are we with the litigation?
I don't know.
What's the latest? What's the latest that you know about? Don't ask him. I want to hear it from you.
Oh my God!
You're
I don't know if I could know.
On the action. What's in your own words? Okay. Where do you say we are right now?
Well, we've stopped every town but Southold, basically. And the Long Island Farm Bureau and the USDA snuck around the towns, and we were actually just, you know, going back to appeal the judgment that got tossed out in Southold when Joe Gergella and the USDA came around and started soliciting pretty much door-to-door farmers and large landowners. I know, sneaky devils. So then we said, well, forget about Southold for now. Let's quick sue the DEC, you know, like as quickly as we could, because that's from whence all these permits are coming. And we thought we had some kind of confidence situation with them, which turned out to be totally bogus. We couldn't get any information from everyone. So it was just like shadow boxing, legal shadow boxing. And so we did get a TRO against the DEC, which stopped them from issuing any more permits, and they did tell us today that they would not issue any more tags either. However, most of the permits had already been released, and we didn't know that because we were calling every day and asking the DEC, have you issued any permits to the USDA? Have you? And oh, no. Well, turns out
for them to continue hunting under those permits is just clearly a violation of the spirit of the injunction.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Everything
how can you
about
argue
this,
that it isn't? And it's just shameless that they would, as a matter of pride, basically continue that after the judge gave his ruling. I mean, to me, it's just incredulous, and they wonder why there's been such an outrage.
I know, and there's no transparency. These are hired officials, and it's a law that they're supposed to communicate and be completely transparent about their business, what they do on behalf of the people that elected them. And they haven't done that at all. It's been just such a shocking, really awaking kind of experience, really disappointing. The hubris, you know, on the part of these officials, and it just, you know, so many people I talk to every day are so against this and so upset about this. You know. Well,
we've come a long way.
Yeah, we have.
There's still a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah.
But it seems like we're in the right track, and you know, the hunting community. Owes you a lot of credit, because there needed to be a lot of people to be able to put together the money and the effort to put together that lawsuit, and ultimately without that there was not going to be an injunction. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for coming down.
Thank you so much. A
absolutely.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Stick around for the roundtable discussion.
Okay, I will.
All right, we'll be after Calvin's, but again, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
All right, man, thanks.